Okay, I'm going to demonstrate what I do when I want to cut one of my shadow boxes as a 12 by 12 file. Presuming that the file that you've received is a square file already, like a lot of the files that I do from my 3D SVG, Christina Ritch, who created this file. So I'm going to show you on my sea turtle file that Christina created. And she creates all of her files to be 8¼ by 8¼ inches, and I like to do all my shadow boxes 12 by 12. So I'm going to click this lock so that I can keep the proportions the same, and it's going to be a 12 by 12. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how I cut these files out of a 12 by 12 piece of paper, but Cricut and Design Space don't want to have 12 by 12 designs or 12-inch designs on your mat. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and ungroup these layers of the sea turtle like that, and then I'm going to turn off all of the layers but the one that I want to show you. This just helps me kind of keep things a little more sane. Okay, so we're going to just do layer number 3, which is the fish and the coral layer of this shadow box. And when I click on this, and it's 12 by 12, and I went to try to make it, it's going to give me project incompatible. I think there's only one machine that you could do this on, and that would be the Maker 3, because it can handle 13-inch wide files. But most of our project paper is going to be 12 by 12, and if we have a regular Cricut, it's not going to let you do that. So how can I get this design, which is clearly not 12 by 12 inches, to cut out of a 12 by 12 piece of paper so I don't have all that waste to throw away? I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really simple, a little time consuming, but this extra step is worth it because I'm also going to show you how to make it cut out of that 12 by 12 centered on your mat automatically. As you know, the Design Space wants to send everything to your mat left justified so that it saves you material, but if you want to cut it centered, this little trick will also help you. So I've already set this to 12 by 12. The next step is that I'm going to add a shape, just a square shape. I'm going to make that square shape into a draw file. Now don't worry, we're not actually going to be drawing anything. This is a ghost file that's going to help us to get that image centered on the mat, and it's not actually going to draw. If you don't put a pin in your Cricut, when it comes time, it's just going to go through the motions as if it's drawing, but it's not actually going to draw anything. We still have our lock on our proportions, so now we're going to take that draw square and change it to an 11.5 by 11.5. Okay. The next step is we're going to center this draw square over our cut layer file by clicking both of them and go to Align Center. So now that draw file is right over the top. Now this is the tricky part. It's very, very important. You want to resize this so it gets out of your way, but you're going to leave the upper left corner in place. Do not move it, because that is our little placeholder to make this design centered on your mat. Just adjust the file so that it is in the upper left corner, and it doesn't matter how big it is. If it's 1 inch, 2 inch, if you're OCD and you want to make it the same size every time, you could do that. Next, we're going to click on our cut layer file, and now this is the part that's going to allow us to make this out of a 12 by 12. We're going to go to Contour, and we're going to remove the outside square. That's the very top cut at the top. So now, and make sure all of your other cuts are still there. Now when we click this, guess what? Our file is no longer 12 by 12, it's 10.832 by 10.764. And now it'll allow it to go to mat. But if we go to mat right now, it's going to do this. It's going to make this off center. I'll just show you and then we'll cancel it. When you hit make it, this is a new feature. When you hit make it, it's going to separate these two items. But if you were to go to this file, see how it's in the upper left corner? It's such a pain in the butt to try to center it. I mean, you can center it manually like this, but my trick that I learned from another YouTuber is going to show you how to do that automatically. So I'm going to hit cancel. Now all we're going to do is this square is in the same place. We're going to select that and hit attach. That little ghost file up here, that little ghost square is going to make it center on the mat. Watch this. When we hit make it, Now it's perfectly centered on the mat, and this is not going to cut or draw because you're not going to put a pin in the Cricut there. And so now if I go to continue, it's going to cut that out of the 12 by 12. So the part that gets a little bit confusing is that what you see that's left behind, and you're thinking, well, what happened to the rest of my paper? That doesn't matter. That's probably the most confusing part for me, was that when I first saw this, I thought, well, wait a minute, I want to cut this out of a 12 by 12. What is going to cut it out? When you see it on the mat, you'll see where it's actually going to be cutting. You see, it's not showing you the paper being removed, but it's going to show you that this is where it's cutting, and then this piece will just fall out, and you'll have it cut out of your 12 by 12. And so you'll need to continue doing that with each one of your layers.